Hi everybody, welcome. Is everybody ready to get started?
Yes.
Yeah. We are.
Thank you. Well, I just want to start off by saying thank you. I really do appreciate that you took time off of your busy schedule to come to my training. And so I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jessica Gordon. I have worked for this company for about 4 years. I started out in recruitment as an enrollment coordinator, and then I transitioned over to retention, and now I'm a program coordinator. I graduated from the University of Central Florida, and now I'm currently obtaining my master's through Abilene Christian University, which this exciting training is for. So just to give you an idea of what you're in for, we will start out by discussing the 4 main social styles. We will have a fun activity, yay. We will discuss the styles. We'll discuss conflict within the styles. We will go a little bit more in depth about the social styles, and then we will close, and I'll have you guys fill out an evaluation. So, how many of you have ever been misunderstood at one point or another?
Oh, yeah.
Every day. And how many have you misunderstood someone at some point where someone snapped at you or they said something to you and you thought to yourself, what did I do? Why is that person talking to me that way? And then later you find out that person had no idea they evoked that emotion from you, and that's not what their intent was. So today, our learning objectives are to improve our communication, identify our own personality traits, how our personalities handle stressful situations, and vice versa, how other people handle stress. And lastly, we will discuss how to identify everybody's individual personality, which will then help us communicate. Understanding, I think, is the most important part. And I thought this quote was perfect. Those who know do, those that understand teach. So I like to think of, just for this purpose, recruitment and program management. There's always been a gap there because recruitment has their own goals, retention has their own goals, and so we get so wrapped up and that we forget that we're all working together collectively. And so I think it's best that we understand where each side is coming from in order for us to actually work together. So instead of telling, commanding, we're able to teach. This is where I'm coming from, and this is where I expect you to help me out with that. Now, if you could turn to the page in your training manual where I have listed the 4 main social styles. There's amiable, analytical, expressive, and driver. Here I have listed some key words that I'd like you to jot down. So with amiable, they tend to be very good-natured people. They're sympathetic, they're generous, they're lenient. With analytics, they're patient, they're very cautious, they're even-tempered, they're polished. Expressives, they tend to be very charming, eager, animated. They have lots of friends, they're companionable. And drivers, they're stubborn, competitive, self-reliant, and outspoken. Then you'll see on the following page that I have some blank spaces there where I've asked for you to list what you think your social style is, what you think your partner, your neighbor there, their social style is, and what my social style is. Yes, Jeremy? You have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking. I was just checking. I looked a little confused. Is everybody done doing that part? Tell me to slow down.
So can our neighbor or ourselves be multiple of those?
Yes, that's very good. Yes, most of us are actually a cross between 2. So we favor 1, but usually we're a mixture of 2.
Okay.
Can I be all four?
Sure. I'm sure we all are in different situations. But again, we favor at least 2. So we all good there?
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's quiz time. So now let's actually take a quiz, an assessment, and figure out exactly what we are. So if you turn to page 10, you'll see that there's 2 columns. The first column there lists assertiveness, how we are when it comes to being assertive. So you'll see in the first part there, there's a difference between quiet and talkative. So if you're in a group, are you the more quiet one, or are you more assertive? If there's something you want, are you going to keep yourself quiet, or are you going to say, I want that, give me that? So you just circle the numerical value. And then on the second part is responsiveness. It's how you respond to certain situations. Are you more open to change with changes within a company? Are you going to embrace them? Or are you more closed off and you just don't understand why things are changing? You're opposed to change. So just take a few moments and go through there. Don't think too hard about it, but do be honest with yourself. Then once you do that, you'll total your score and you'll divide it by 15, which is why we have the calculators there, because I know I couldn't do that. I could not divide by 15. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and complete that. Once everybody's done doing that, you can actually move on to page 11, which you'll see a chart. On that chart, you'll see the y-axis, or the vertical axis, is the responsive, which is the first column, and the x-axis is your assertive, the horizontal axis. So you go ahead and plot those 2 points on there.
Can you go over that one more time?
So so you take the numbers that you tallied up on that first part where you divided by 15, and that fraction there you're going to plot on the second page, on page 11, you'll graph it. So the first column, the responsive, you'll plot that point, and then on the that's the y-axis, and then the x-axis, the horizontal, you'll plot the second number, second column. So you'll have 2 plot points there. Yes.
If you could, just, I got confused with that, just with the plotting.
What about you be here?
2.4, so you'll find 2.4, so you're about here. And then 2.07, you're about here. So you're across with your driver amiable.
Okay. All right, well, that makes sense.
Just to make sure I did it right. I did 2.9.
Yeah, you're about this, so you're amiable. Yeah.
2.0 and 1.2.
She didn't ask.
1.2.
I'd ask.
Same as him.
Are you kidding?
Oh.
I knew we were about to go.
There you go.
All feels important in the neck, wasn't it? And she was always in the lead. 100%.
Isn't that right?
Yep.
And then that's right?
Yeah.
So then there's that.
Your second one? What's your second one? So you're like analytical expressive.
Both of mine were 2
Yeah, I
points.
mean, I had a couple of them.
So I guess you're driver expressive.
So that's why kind of cool, because you're like, mine are like, I know you're like stronger.
All right, does everybody pretty much plotted their points? Okay, so were any of you surprised by your results?
Yes.
Yes. And what about your neighbor? What did you think your neighbor was, or what did they end up being? Were you way off?
Wow. Shocked.
Right on the line.
Jeremy, what were you? What were your results?
I was a driver, but kind of right in the corner. So I didn't score very high, over 2.5. I was close to 2.5 in both categories, so I was really close to the center, but it was mostly the driver.
See, I would have pegged you as analytical.
Yeah, but I think they are patient.
Oh.
Throw me out of that category.
Honesty is
I had him as
important.
analytical as well.
Yeah. What were you, Allison?
I was amiable.
Yes, that's what I would have thought.
And that's what I thought I would do more than expressive.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you guys think I was? How many of you thought I was amiable? No one? Analytical?
I was there with driver.
Yeah.
Driver?
Driver.
Expressive. I put expressive driver.
I was driver.
I am expressive. Very.
Most of it.
Good job. All right, so let's move on to perception. So part of that exercise was to look over to your neighbor and think what you thought they were, which is all perception. And so I thought this cartoon was absolutely fantastic at depicting that. So you look at the gentleman on the far right. He's missed lunch. He's having tummy trouble. He just needs to go to the restroom. He has back-to-back meetings, cross-functional, team meeting, check-in, telephone calls. He's hungry and just needs to go to the bathroom. These 4 people, off to the side, 4 different people, 4 different walks of life, now have perceived what they think why he's leaving. The first guy can't believe he left the meeting. How could he? The second woman he's stomping off, so now he's angry. Poor guy just needs to go to the bathroom. He's tired, but now he's angry. Third guy, now it's personal. He has a flaw. That guy is flawed because he has to leave. And the fourth guy, he's not a team player. That's going on his evaluation. So now this guy is not a team player. And it's all because of bad communication, poor communication. The first guy, all he had to do was say, I need to use the restroom. I have back-to-back meetings. I'll be right back. And the four people should not perceive or assume. They should ask him, why are you leaving? What is the matter with you? So it's very important. Perception is everything. So let's discuss a little bit more in depth about the different personalities. So those of you who are amiable, you display your emotions. You typically speak slowly, you're thoughtful, and you have variety in your speech. You're very sensitive, empathetic, you're relationship-oriented. You care deeply about people, not necessarily goals or tasks. And a support specialist profession. So for the purpose of this training, you'd find that more of our program coordinators are support specialist type people. They're touchy-feely. Our analytics. They control their emotions. Their voice is typically subdued, monotone. They're very careful, task-focused people. They prefer facts and data, no fluff. They don't want to hear it. And they're technical type professions. So our Craig Schneider of our IT department, analytical, Keith Thompson, analytical. They don't want to hear the why. They don't want to know when. They just want to know what is the data. Our drivers. They control their emotions. They have them, but they have the ability to control them. They speak very direct, they're fast, they're results focused, they're very impatient. And they have control specialist professions, probably, here it's managers are probably drivers. Expressives, they display their emotions. They wear their feelings on their face. There's no hiding it. They speak fast, they have a lot of inflection, they speak with variety, they're very people focused, they're very social. They like having people around them and friends, like amiables. Expressives probably are more social, that they like having a lot of friends, whereas amiables just want to nurture small amount of people relationships. They're very creative. Social specialist professions, they're probably more like our marketing team. They probably are more event planners, wedding planners, things like that. So what happens with amiables or analytics, drivers, expressives when it comes to conflict? What happens to them if you have a conflict with someone of that personality or yourself? Amiables become passive. They lack conviction. They're the ones that are like, should I have said that? Should they have said that? Why are they saying that? I don't know. And they avoid confrontation, which typically makes things worse. Analytics are whiny. They're sarcastic and they become negative. Drivers become aggressive, rude, and abrupt. And expressives become unpredictable and emotional. They fly off the handle, you give them 10 minutes, and then they're okay. They're fine. They just need to let it all out. Solutions. So how do you handle these folks when you get into a conflict with them? Amiables. They need to feel secure. They need reassurance, support, and you need to confirm commitment. So those of you men who are in relationships with amiable women, reassurance, reassurance, reassurance. Write that down. Analytics need to be correct. So those of you married to analytical, just yes, you're correct, you're right. And you just keep to the facts and listen. Drivers need to be in control. So you allow them to be in control, but when you approach them, if you have a problem, you have to have a solution and you stick to that. You say, this is our problem, this is how we're going to fix it, enough. And expressives need recognition. So you give them space, let them cool down, then you ask them questions. Why are you mad? Why is this happening? How can we fix it? So the interactions between the styles. So analytical, be amiable. You'll see if you're following along in your training manual, there's a better chart that has a lot more information on there that I couldn't get on the PowerPoint. So I'll read along with you. But you'll see that the area of conflict between analytics and amiables are priorities. Analytics are they're data-driven, results-oriented. They're not necessarily concerned with the relationships of others. If it means that somebody's feelings get hurt, that's okay because we're going to end up with a solution. Whereas amiables, they care more about the relationships than they do the results. So that's where they have a flaw. That's where they don't get along. They do share the low assertiveness. So They both will stand back. They're not going to be the ones at, at a buffet when the crab legs come out. They're not going to be the ones to charge for it and load up their plate. They're going to stand back and get in line and wait. And then pace, that's another area. So they're both very slow-paced people. Drivers and expressives. Again, their priorities are where they don't get along. See, drivers are more goal-oriented, like analytics. Expressives are more concerned with people and relationships and being social. They do share high assertiveness, so they both are able to, when they want something, they're both able to articulate that and go for it. Analytics versus driver, where they do not get along, is pace. Drivers, if they're in a meeting, what's the flaw? Let's fix it. Analytics, give me some data. Let me go home. Let me think about it. Let me mull it over. I need to really come up with a good solution for this. I don't want to just charge forth and think of something immediately. Amiables, expressives, their pace is where they don't get along. Amiables are very slow and concise. They're slow and they're more concerned with friends and family, whereas expressives are outgoing, active, loud, boisterous. Analytical versus expressive, there's nothing that they share. Analytics are data, quiet, reserved, composed. Expressives, yay, what is that? Let's figure it out. Woo, let's have a party about it. They do not see eye to eye when it comes to most things. Amiable drivers, same thing. I think with amiables and drivers, amiables drive drivers nuts because an example would be a group of people going to lunch. What do you feel like? I don't care. What do you feel like? Chinese? Sure, but I like subs. I like subs too. And it goes on and on and on until the driver says, what do you want? Let's go. Let's go. We're going. So I could see those two types of personalities not getting along well. So now let's discuss how to recognize. So moving forward, part of this training is our ability to recognize what we are, how we handle stressful situations, how people perceive us, but also now how do we recognize others. So amiables, they like a lot of positive attention, they're helpful, they like to be regarded warmly. They want everybody to like them. They don't want anybody to think, well, she's not nice or he's mean. They want everybody to know that they're very empathetic, sympathetic people. They must be allowed to relax, feel, care, and know that you care. Again, men. Reassurance, reassurance, reassurance. They like to save relationships and friendships pretty much at any cost. So a lot of the times, amiables are willing to give themselves up or lose practicality when it comes to relationships or friendships. Leaders of amiables should care, be soft with them, provide detail, and provide specific plans. Analytics. How do you recognize an analytic? They seek a lot of data, they ask questions, they're very methodical and systematic in their movements. They must be allowed to make decisions at their own pace. So again, you cannot tell them how it is. They want data and they want to mull it over and make the decision for themselves because they also like to save face. They don't want to make an abrupt decision that ends up being wrong. They want to be right, and so they're going to take their time making that decision. Leaders should provide structure. These folks are usually pretty much self-starters. You just give them some structure, you tell them what you need to do, and they'll do it. Drivers, how do we recognize a driver? Well, they like their own way. They're decisive with strong points of view, and they must be allowed to be competitive, and they like to win. So these are the folks that really like the competitions. Who's going to make the most calls? Who gets the most referrals? Those types of people really enjoy that. And they like to save time. They're very efficient, but they want to get things done. They're very quick. Leaders should allow them freedom to do things their own way. So you just leave them be. Expressives. How do you tell an expressive? They get excited. They're excitable people. They must be allowed to get ahead quickly, and they like a challenge. So like a driver, they like to be challenged. They like competition. They need to strive for something. They always have to have a goal. They like to save effort, rely on hunches and intuition. So like amiables, they are very introspective, introverted, well, not introverted, but they are very introspective and empathetic. They do care about others and what's going on. And a leader should inspire them to be bigger and have better accomplishments. I believe that expressives probably get bored. So they need variety, they need change. Well, that concludes all of my information. So I just wanted to ask if any of you had any questions.
did. Are there studies that people in a work environment would behave a little bit differently than they would in a home environment? Meaning, I was really surprised to see driver on mine. I mean, I'm more amiable, I've always known that, but I think maybe over the years, just working, you take on other characteristics. Is that something?
I would imagine, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would imagine that in different settings we are different, because I know, for example, with me, in my home, my parents, my sisters view me in a very different way than people at work do. So it's very interesting. We definitely do have, we're not chameleons, but we definitely have different faces. I mean, we have different hands. We're different people in different environments. But I would say absolutely, because I'm surprised you're a driver too, because I always thought of you as amiable. Yeah. But I'm sure if you want something, you're gonna go for it.
Well, like you were discussing, the lunch person, oh, I don't care, after living through so many of those conversations, it's like, I want to go have pizza. Or I want to, you learn how to make decisions and not be so wishy-washy.
It's true. Yeah, I'm sure with time things do change, different experiences. Anybody else?
Yeah, mine kind of piggybacks off that question. I knew someone who was very amiable when I first met her, but over the years become more of a driver. Now, is that possible, or what could cause it, or?
Well, maybe you rubbed off on her. That's probably what it is. You become calloused. So, I'm sure with age, experience. I know from working here, when I first started here 4 years ago, I kept to myself. I was very quiet. You wouldn't have known that I had a personality at all.
The good old days.
The good. But with time, you learn how to speak up, and it's work. It's not personal. Those types of things where I initially worried so much if that person's going to like me or not. Well, it's work. They're going to like me or not, and we have to get this task done, and so be it. But I definitely think different. Those 4 quadrants. That's very broad when our personalities are very complicated, and so many things make us, who we are. And so just putting them in 4 quadrants isn't fair, but for this type of purpose, it has to be. But I definitely think we're probably all very close to being in the middle, depending on our situation, so.
When you first started getting into this section, did you already know did you guess correctly before you took the quiz yourself, or were you?
No, because I always thought of myself as amiable. Just because I am when I have relationships, I'm just very loyal. They tend to be very loyal. You want to nourish relationships. You do care if people are hurt. You're very empathetic. You're willing to give the shirt off your back for somebody if they need it. But then I realized that I'm probably more expressive than I am amiable. And so I was somewhat surprised. And I took this quiz years ago, and I was amiable, full-on amiable. And now, as years have gone by, I've probably found myself more. And so more of my real personality has come out. So yeah, I was surprised. And I think different quizzes too probably have different results. Moods may have something to do with it. So. All right. Well, that is it. Again, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to participate. I hope that all of you have something to take away. I hope that aside from candy, that it was somewhat enjoyable, that you now understand who we are better, who you are, and will be able to communicate better. At the very end of your page, if you could just rip it off and just take a couple of moments to fill out my evaluation, I would really appreciate it. But again, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then once you fill out the evaluation, you can just put it on those little tables up there upside down, so I don't know who said what.
I'll go first, that way we have this one on the bottom.
And you can keep the pens. They're yours.
Game changer.
Number one answer.
Okay, great.
Now I know what you said. Thank you.
Uh-huh.